All right, so for my tutorial, I'll be going over scriptable objects. So the way that I think about scriptable objects are a data packet that you can store in the assets folder, much like a prefab that contains game objects and components. Scriptable objects allow you to kind of swap out these data packets for one another in the inspector, in code. Essentially, they help to modularize your code so that you can, change these values with preset data collections. So here I have this shoot weapon component, and I have these weapon stats. So I can demonstrate them here with the firing mode being single action. So you can probably hear my mouse click, but I am firing or trying to fire every so often. But the fire rate is 1, so I can only fire at a maximum of 1 per second. And the firing mode is single, so when I click and hold down, only 1 fires. I can change that here. And now 1 click lets me fire many times. But if I wanted to create separate variations of this gun, I don't really want to be swapping in and out prefabs, because then this object would lose its reference to the stat object on the rifle. But instead, we can use scriptable objects to swap these different variations in and out in the inspector during play. So let's take a look at how we might do that. Here, I'm going to move out this weapon stat class. I'm going to take all of its components so that we have it. I just created this class, this model behavior, and now I want to make it a scriptable object. Well, first, paste in these values, and just like this, I would be able to attach it to a component or to a game object as a component. But this is still not what we want to do, because then it would need to be within an object in a prefab in order to store it in the assets folder. So instead, we're going to change the model behavior to scriptable object. This allows any serializable data to be stored in the assets folder. So what is serializable data? Well, it's a bit of a complicated question, but simple data types like enums, booleans, floats, ints are all serializable. You can also make some classes serializable by adding the serializable tag, which needs reference to system. This is how I was displaying it within the inspector here before. Now, all of these values are serializable, so they will show up when we try to create a weapon stat scriptable object. In order to create one of these objects, however, we need to make a way to create it in the assets folder. So we use this attribute create asset menu, which takes 3 arguments. Sorry, I lost my. Okay. The first argument is the default file name. So this is going to be the default name of any scriptable object that you create under this, using this essentially function to create this file. So I'm just going to call it weapon stats. Second argument is the menu name. Here I'm going to create a Scriptable Objects menu item, and then within that, I'm going to put the weapon stats object. And the final parameter is the order, which will, giving it an order of 0, we'll put it at the very top of the create asset menu. So now within Unity, we can go into the context menu, go to create. We see this scriptable objects, and we can click on weapon stats. And this will create a weapon stats scriptable object. So I am going to create a weapon stat called single fire rifle to apply to this rifle here. I'm going to set the magazine capacity to 12, reload time of 1.5 seconds, fire rate of, go with 0.5 seconds, and damage of 40. Now I can go ahead and go to my shoot weapon script and bring in this single fire rifle scriptable object. And now we should be able to achieve the same play that we did before with these new values. Better reload. And I'm sorry if this sound effect is too loud. I can't hear it on my end while I'm recording, but yeah. So here we have the weapon stat. Now I'm going to make a duplicate of this, create an automatic rifle stat, set it to automatic, set the fire rate to 0.25, and now you can see how easy it is to swap out different scriptable objects. I'm going to hold down my mouse, and you can see it rapid firing. So this is how to create scriptable objects, how to create a way to make them in the context menu, and how to swap them in and out on a game object. Now, different uses for this. I went ahead and, for my final project, created a weapon manager that took in a bunch of different weapon stats and swapped them out in the script, along with key presses of like 1, 2, 3 to correspond to each of the different weapon types. I will be providing the assets for this tutorial, including the scriptable objects that I made, as well as the gunshot sound and the particle effect, which the muzzle flash, which I'm fairly proud of. And feel free to try and implement a weapon switching system using this scriptable object framework for the different weapon stats. You can make it so that you change the fire rate with a button press or scroll wheel or something. So I think that would be a good challenge to see if you can handle dealing with these scriptable objects.